Hey Eagle fans, it's EaglefanKarl. This is going to be my prediction video for tomorrow's game against the Arizona Cardinals as the Eagles look to stay atop the NFC East and as we head into the second quarter of the NFL season. I know there's a lot of Eagle fans that seem to be taking this game. I think it's going to be an easy game. They look at the Cardinals' record, they look at how they've played, and they figure this is just going to be an easy one. I don't know that it's going to be quite that easy, and the reason being is because of what really concerns me as far as the Cardinals' strengths against our weaknesses. And basically, their strength plays right into our weakness, which is not a good thing. Specifically, right now, their offense is pretty much Carson Palmer and Larry Fitzgerald plus the rest of their receiving core. And when you think about that versus our secondary right now and how our secondary is playing, that really concerns me. You also couple that with the fact that it looks like Fletcher Cox isn't going to play again on Sunday. And then it really starts getting concerning because Fletcher Cox is so important in terms of putting pressure up the middle against opposing quarterbacks that it really sort of concerns me that it could be a situation where Larry Fitzgerald just goes nuts against us. And that's something that's happened before. He has a history of having really good games against us. And so that it's just for that reason that I sort of get concerned. It's not only that, it's just sort of the history also that we have against the Cardinals. The Cardinals when they were in our division, they were always sort of a team we overlooked. And there would always be a game that would sort of end up just getting us out of nowhere where we were like, how did we lose that game? And really, I sort of almost feel like that with this game. It's like it should be a win. You look at the teams, you look at everything, and you think it should be a win. It's just that one piece that really concerns me, but that's a big piece. You're talking about Hall of Fame wide receiver who happens to have career games against us, and he's going up against us when our secondary couldn't be in worse shape. And it's not just how our defense is struggling, it's the fact that we're giving up big plays. If we were just giving up yards and points, it would be one thing, but it's how we're giving them up. We're giving them up on big plays. And if Larry Fitzgerald is the king of big plays. And so you're talking about, once again, sort of their strength and our weakness is just not a good match for this game. The Eagles should win this game. They're the better team. They're playing at home. You've got a West Coast team coming east. Everything should be in their favor in this game. And I think that's sort of why Eagles fans are just sort of taking this one for granted. But this is a game that if the Eagles sleep on this, they're going to end up losing this game. That said, their weakness and our strength sort of play well together in the sense that they are dead last in the league in running the football, and we are the second best defense against the run. So you put all that stuff together, and it should be good for us in terms of their running game, and not having to really worry about their running game. A lot of that has to do with the fact that they lost David Johnson in the first week of the season, and they're now forced to play with the other Johnson, the older one, Chris Johnson, who's well past his prime from his days in Tennessee. So don't think of him as that running back that had 1,000-yard seasons, 5 years ago. He's well beyond those days. So the Eagles shouldn't have to really worry about their running game and should be able to then play the safeties off a little bit and provide some help to the cornerbacks. But still, you put all that together, and I'm still worried about that passing game against our secondary. It's just not a good matchup. And I really think the Eagles need to try and do what they can to get pressure on Carson Palmer. The good news with that is the fact that the Cardinals are tied for dead last in the league in terms of sacks surrendered. So they are giving up sacks. They are giving up pressure on Carson Palmer. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they are very one-dimensional. So defenses are able to just go ahead and blitz and rush the quarterback against them and then not really have to worry about the running game. So hopefully that means our defensive line will be able to do that as well, because our pass rush it started out real good the first few games, and the last couple of games it's been real poor. I'd like to see Jim Schwartz do what he usually doesn't do, and that is try and blitz more and really try and make Carson Palmer make quick decisions, allow the cornerbacks then to play up a little bit on the wide receivers and force them to go ahead and really make plays early on. Obviously, the problem with that is then if he is able to complete the pass, you are then vulnerable to a big play if you're not able to get the receiver down right away. But my gut tells me that that's what I'd like to see him do. My gut tells me that probably the more likely thing he'll do is play the cornerbacks off of the wide receivers, go with a 4-man rush, and just basically try and keep everything in front of them and then just bring guys down when they're tackled. The problem with that is is it usually gives up a lot of yards, and then you're just one big play away from them breaking it for a touchdown. If they don't, it does help you then, and maybe you can hold them to field goals. But it really concerns me with the way the Eagles defense generally plays against teams like this. He has a tendency to get real sort of conservative, and any good quarterback then can just sit back there and throw 5-6 yard completions all day long. And I think Carson Palmer is good enough to do that. He's not going to be the type that's going to get impatient with that and try and go for a big play. He'll be willing to take those 5 and 6 yard completions because you can move the ball all the way down the field like that, and then hopefully you can get it in the end zone when you get to the red zone. I think that's really where the Eagles are going to have to really play good defenses in the red zone to force them to field goals, because that's sort of the way I expect that we're going to end up playing against them. So how do we end up winning a game like this? I think we're going to have to win this game the way we won the last 2 games, and that is sort of playing keep away. I think the Eagles have really sort of found their identity, which is a ball control team that doesn't subject their defense then to a lot of big long drives and stuff like that. If they give up the occasional big play, I think they're okay with that. The way we end up stopping other teams' offense is keeping the ball ourselves, and the way we've been able to do that is we've been doing it real effectively the last 2 weeks on the ground. And I really think that that's what we've got to continue to do. I really applauded Doug Peterson for the game plan last week. I think he saw that the Chargers were weak against the run and decided to stick with it. And I think that's what we sort of need to do again in this game. We need to stick with the running game. Even if it's not working right away early on, we need to stick with it and go ahead and keep the ball away from the Cardinals. And I think that's the way we end up winning this game. When that happens, though, it ends up being a lower scoring game. It ends up being a lot closer. But I think that the Eagles can win the game if they play sort of in that fashion. The other thing, of course, we've got to do is protect the ball. We can't give up turnovers. If we lose the turnover battle in this game, we're going to lose this game. We've got to win the turnover battle. And if we do that and we are able to keep possession of the ball, I don't see how we lose this game. So that's really, I think if we stick to our game, the way we've won the last 2 weeks, I think we can beat this team just as well, and if not, by a comfortable margin. It's just really a matter of staying committed to that I think is going to be the real question in this. But like I said, I think the Eagles will find their identity and continue with what we've done and continue to go with what's been successful the last few weeks. If you look at the Cardinals defense, it's sort of a strange picture because they're 7th overall in yardage in terms of what they're giving up. They're 10th against the rush. They're 12th against the pass. So all of those statistics are above average. They're in the top half of the league. But then you go to points scored, and they're 20th in the league. So they are giving up points, even though they're not necessarily giving up yards. That tells me that when they're giving up yardage, they're giving it up and people are scoring on them. So that, I think, could lend itself to our type of game, which is we're not going to necessarily have a lot of possessions. We're not necessarily going to end up being able to score a lot of points, but we will score points when we have the ball as long as we keep the ball for a long period of time. So I think that's sort of the recipe to win this game, and I think that goes right into our strengths. So for that reason, I am going to go ahead and pick the Eagles to win this game. I do think it's going to be maybe closer than some Eagles fans think, but I do think it's at the end it might probably seem a little more comfortable than what it's going to throughout the whole game. For that reason, I'm going to go ahead and pick the Eagles to win this game. My prediction for the score is Eagles 24, Cardinals 16. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Give me your prediction. Let me know what you think the score is going to be. Let me know if you think this is going to be a cakewalk and I'm just being overly anxious, or if you're really anxious and maybe you even think the Eagles are going to lose. Let me know below. I'll go ahead, check back after the game, let you know what I thought. Until then, fly Eagles fly.